Gwen O'Mahony, a former British Columbia MLA and former Conservative Party of BC MLA candidate, has recently been victim of a targeted car arson, it seems, on the same very day that my interview with her here on Rebel News was widely distributed. An interview where Gwen O'Mahony sheds light on the hateful church arsons that have been taking place across the country and how she wants to fight back against them. Is this a coincidence or connected? I'm Drea Humphrey with Rebel News, and today I bring you an interview with Gwen for her side of this story.
Had that fire, which was heading towards my gas cap and underneath my gas tank of my car, had it not been put out as quickly as it was, that car could have exploded and somebody could have been injured or, God forbid, killed.
Now at Rebel News, we fearlessly bring you the other side of the story, and sadly, in 2025, that includes informing the public about church burning sprees that everybody seems to be okay with. Like the time I asked Prime Minister Trudeau, who was oh so understanding. He said he could understand why the churches were burning in the wake of the false claim that there had been 215 children's remains discovered at the former Kamloops Indian Residential School. Well, I asked him, why not call it what it is? Why aren't you calling it hate?
One of my reflections is I understand the anger that's out there against the federal government, against institutions like the Catholic Church. It is real and it is fully understandable given the shameful history that we're all becoming more and more aware of.
You talked about Canada's last wrongs, the past things they haven't done right. When will you speak out about the 20 vandalized churches? They're burning churches and vandalizing them, and you're not calling it a hate crime. Or like my colleague Sheila Gunn-Reid, who more recently is making sure the public knows that it's actually been over 460 churches attacked by arson in our country since 2016. Over 90 of which took place in 2021 when that false claim took out. And of course, most of those 400 odd ones have taken place ever since. And a large sum of them have taken place in British Columbia. Now, while Rebel News makes sure you know these things, it's not every day that politicians do. In fact, take a look here where our politicians are rising after our documentary, Kamloops, The Buried Truth, had proven that 215 claim was false. Here's our federal MPs all taking a moment of silence for the discovery that never was.
Following discussions among representatives of all parties in the House, I understand that there is an agreement to observe a moment of silence to commemorate National Indigenous Peoples Day and mark the discovery of the remains of 215 children at a former residential school in Kamloops.
And then there was Miss Gwen O'Mahony, who not only is willing to shed light on these church attacks, but wants to bring forth a resolution so that a actual party, the Conservative Party of BC, takes these attacks seriously and tries to get to the bottom of them. Now, I'm happy to report that I'm told that all three of those lovely women have become delegates for the Conservative Party of BC. But what I'm not happy to report is that on the eve of us emailing that report at Mass, this is what happens to her car. So, more facts need to be done. We'll talk about what the RCMP are saying about this. The leader of the Conservative Party, John Rustad, did come out to say the following. He said he's angered to hear about the arson attack, and he thanked O'Mahony for the work she's done to highlight hate crimes that occurred against Christians when churches were burnt down all across BC. He added that he's proud of BC Conservatives like Gwen O'Mahony, and in a separate post, he stated that he knows Gwen O'Mahony won't be intimidated or back down because of radical leftists.
Politicians, doesn't matter what political stripe, they do the best they can. And that's an important issue that, Gwen had raised. We will continue to fight for the things that matter.
Gwen O'Mahony joins me now to let you know if that's true.
Well, I know that it was the RCMP are looking into it and they're interviewing people. I've heard that they've been in the neighborhood talking to people. They put up a tipster line and also released a public statement just yesterday.
Okay, so they are taking it seriously, and I mean, as they should be. One of the questions I asked you and them, still waiting for the response, have there been fires often in your area that you know of?
So there's a couple things, that when you talk about fires, okay, there's what you would call the accidental fires, and because Nanaimo has quite a high number of homeless people, there are always accidental fires happening as a result of the torches that they use to smoke drugs, or even just lighting fires to stay warm. And especially those fires are lit near forested areas or near buildings, a fire can result. So those are the accidental kind. But in my case, this is an arson, and it is the arson of a motor vehicle, which isn't as common. It's
Yeah.
actually it's quite unusual.
Yeah, you're right. That does seem more uncommon now. This happened on or the eve of the 11th, which is after we had emailed out, which means a larger audience sees the last interview I did with you, which was about you wanting to become a delegate for the Conservative Party of BC so that you could bring forth a resolution and, of course, other things. But that resolution was actually discussing tackling church fires. What was going through your head when you first saw the car? When did that start to pop up as a possible motive for this?
Well, I have to say, I enjoyed doing the interview. I'm glad that we were talking about an issue that is seldomly discussed, unfortunately, in the press. Lots of people aren't aware of the degree of the arsons that have impacted churches in BC and across Canada.
Yeah.
And so a number of people started messaging me that had seen the interview through the email blast from Rebel News. And that was around 3 p.m. that I received these encouraging messages from people. I went about my business and filled up my gas tank, came home in the evening. It was just relaxing. And I got this phone call at 10 p.m. from an RCMP officer asking me to come down because they had just put a fire out. So I didn't make the connection. It wasn't like I walked out the door and thought, oh.
And I guess the question is, and you told me this is also what I guess one of the responding officers said to you, do you have any other enemies that possibly could have played a role in this?
Yeah, because of the way that it was definitely a deliberate fire. So there were blocks of wood or kindling placed under my wheel. And you can see that in the picture very clearly, the one that shows my car in flames. So it had been set there intentionally, wasn't an accident. And so, yes, that was a very natural question to ask. Do you have any enemies? To which I responded, I'm a BC conservative. I imagine I have a few.
But a lot of people who, if they thought there's a possible link, that doing the interview, exposing, how untackled the arsons against churches are, was also perhaps getting you targeted in such a way, they wouldn't dare come back on Rebel News. Why are you coming back on Rebel News and doing other interviews about this?
Well, for one, I want to know who set my car on fire. And the best way to really find out who did it is to get as much media exposure as you can. And hopefully somebody will remember something and they'll get in touch with the RCMP. And then we'll find out who did this, because arson is a very dangerous crime, whether it's in your home or in a car. Just think about this. This fire was set at about 9:40 p.m. in a very busy street where there's lots of pedestrians walking around, even at night, walking their dogs. Had that fire, which was heading towards my gas cap and underneath my gas tank of my car, had it not been put out as quickly as it was, that car could have exploded and somebody could have been injured or, God forbid, killed. So definitely I want to make sure that whoever did this is held to account, number one. Number two, I want to send a really strong message that this isn't going to shut me up if somebody was intending to do that. if they were seeing, have been watching me on my social media feed, if they watched the Rebel News interview or any other interview I have done, yeah, this is just, you're going to get the opposite effect if you think that you can intimidate me, whoever this is that did this. If that was the intention, the opposite is going to happen.
And before I get to the next question, tell us, since some are probably wondering, did you get approved to be a delegate?
Yes, I will be attending the AGM, which is going to be held here in Nanaimo as a Conservative Party of BC delegate. I'm looking forward to it.
And are you still going to bring forth the same resolution, knowing that there could potentially be this risk?
Yes, and actually that resolution has been viewed by a number of Conservative Party members, and especially in light of the arson on my car, the arson crime that was committed against me. This resolution is actually getting a lot more attention.
It seems the RCMP have yet to identify a suspect for the suspicious vehicle fire. On February 18th, they updated their statement and are continuing to request that any motorists who were parked near the intersection of Dufferin Crescent and Somerville Place Tuesday, February 11th, check their dash cam footage between 9 and 9:30 p.m. and report anything suspicious that was filmed to the Nanaimo RCMP non-emergency line. Drea Humphrey with Rebel News. At Rebel News, we fearlessly bring you the other side of the story. That includes giving a platform to fearless politicians who continue to sound the alarm on things they should, even if they're under attack. If you appreciate the valuable journalism we bring you, consider becoming a Rebel News Plus subscriber. That's where you can see our documentaries, including mine called Kamloops: The Buried Truth, and more, and get our exclusive shows as well. But most importantly, at least I think, you help keep Rebel News possible so that the people get the other side of the story. Again, that's rebelnewsplus.com. We appreciate your support.